Hey everyone, my name is Perry, and welcome back to the Cassette Phase. So I hope that you all had a good weekend, and even though the week is upon us once again, we can still take some time out of our busy lives to enjoy some nostalgic relaxation. And today, that means that we're going to visit a galaxy far, far away for a video that I promised you all a couple weeks back when I showed you my recently acquired 1983 Kenner Ewok Village playset. And as I mentioned in that video, this playset is not one that I ever had as a kid. I always wanted it and played with it at friends' houses, but I never had it myself. And I think that this is one of the greatest playsets straight from the golden age of action figure playsets. And if you're new around here and you enjoy things like vintage toys and action figures and playsets, be sure to go back and check that video out. We talk about some really good ones. But for today, let's focus on that classic 1983 Kenner Star Wars Indoor Ewok Village playset. Because as you know, that's something that I'm really excited about. It showed up in that video, and I'm still excited about it, honestly, because we set aside some time today to work on this project that I described in a previous video. But for those of you who may not have seen it, what I want to do is create a diorama style display out of the Ewok Village. Still something that can be played with, move the figures around, have little battles, enjoy all the functionality of that playset, that the playset has to offer when it works, of course, but also just make it look really cool. And what I'm thinking of when I made this plan was think back to all the commercials of the action figures and the action figure playsets in the 80s. And the kids were always playing with these things in the coolest environments and the really the most detailed settings possible. I mean, think about some of the G.I. Joe commercials where the troops are battling, in front of a little brook or in a mountain range of some kind. Same thing with Star Wars and He-Man and Ninja Turtles. And think about all the remote control cars. And I'm just thinking about 80s toys and how they sold them to us in all those commercials. And how one day I wanted to create an environment similar to that to try to capture that particular feeling with a playset. And I feel like this is the perfect one to do that. My wife, Mrs. Cassette Phase, she's very crafty, and she helped a ton with this. And as you'll see as I take you through it all, she actually did most of it. I helped a little bit here and there and gave some direction and kind of created the vision, but she made it all happen, honestly. So yeah, it's been a really, really fun project, and I'm really excited to take you guys through it. So we're going to talk about a little history, just briefly, about this particular toy. And then I'm going to take you through the chronicled process from start to finish. And I think the finished product is going to make for a really fun video today. You guys let me know what you think. And of course, we've got our next entry in the cassette of the day. So just a fun, nostalgic time all around here in the den. Sound like fun to you? Come hang out. Okay everyone, welcome back to the Ottoman, and welcome to another great day here in the den, where today's background noise is being provided by a playthrough of the Super Nintendo Return of the Jedi game. The Super Nintendo Star Wars games are pretty fun. I think each of those is kind of a good time, so if you haven't checked those out, go back and give those a playthrough. They kind of hold up, in my opinion, of course. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about our cassette of the day and then move on with the rest of the video to showcase and highlight the Ewok Village playset project and all of its progress to this point. But we're going to do not just a cassette of the day, but not just a double either. We're going to do a triple cassette of the day because I've talked about some of these movies before, and we're double dipping here a little bit on our past cassettes of the day, but that's okay, because today it's all about the galaxy far, far away. It's all about Star Wars, and more specifically, it's all about Ewoks. I think this is a first on the channel, a triple cassette of the day. And I felt like I needed to do that because I've already talked about Return of the Jedi quite a bit on the channel. You guys know that's my favorite Star Wars. It's the first one that I ever saw as a kid. It definitely feels like an 80s movie, whereas the other ones feel a little bit more 70s to me. But then we've got the Ewok Adventure, and then the Ewoks Battle for Endor, which I think one of these was retitled Caravan of Courage. I think it was this one. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, just featuring the Ewoks. I figured we had to with the theme of today's video. These are great tapes. I like having them in my collection. These two movies are not that great, especially compared to The Return of the Jedi, of course, but I get what they were going for. Lucasfilm and the gang, they were wanting to cash in on the marketing gold that was the Ewoks. These cute little cuddly teddy bears with spears and a really, really cool environment. One of the coolest planets and environments, I think, from any movie back then. So yeah, just wanted to show these to you quickly. All of these are available to watch on Disney+. You can find Return of the Jedi on VHS just about anywhere for not very expensive. These are a little bit more rare, but still easily obtained if you're interested in having the tape. Because, let's be honest, on movies like these two where the effects aren't the greatest, still cool, still some practical effects and some cool environments and stuff. But watching them on a format like VHS actually does these movies some favors, in my opinion, as opposed to watching the, I don't know if they did a remaster on them, but when you pull them up on Disney Plus and stream them, they are a little bit more crystal clear, which, like I said before in past videos, that doesn't always do a service to some of these movies. It actually is to their detriment in some cases, but all fun watches regardless. I don't want to go too long on the cassettes of the day today because we got a lot of other stuff to get to, but I figured these would be appropriate. Let's keep moving. So today, I invite you to take a hyperspace jump, but not through space, through time, back to the year 1983. 1983, the year that Return of the Jedi hit theaters, and Michael Jackson's Thriller was ruling the airwaves. And somewhere deep in the aisles of the department store toy section lived some magic in the form of molded plastic trees. I am talking, of course, about the legendary Ewok Village playset, a monument to childhood imagination and one of the most ambitious things that Kenner ever attempted. Just picture it. 3 molded plastic tree trunks, each about as realistic as a papier-mâché school project, but to our young eyes, they represented the ancient, mighty forests of Endor. And Kenner released this set to coincide with the Return of the Jedi, because by then they knew Ewoks weren't just little teddy bears with spears. Ewoks were marketing gold, and kids wanted Ewoks. But let's be honest, as magnificent as the Ewok Village playset was, it also taught us a few hard lessons, like how gravity works with that elevator that just won't seem to stay up, or that net trap that was a great idea, but in practice, it really just kind of sagged. And yet somehow, we loved it. Because back then, this wasn't just a playset. It was like an ecosystem for our action figures. And it didn't just belong to Wicket and his friends. This is also where Luke Skywalker had deep conversations with Han Solo about the Force. This is where Darth Vader would occasionally show up because in our 80s childhood bedrooms, canon was flexible. And Yoda would occasionally pay a visit to the Ewok Village because why wouldn't Yoda want to visit Endor? Now, decades later, when you see one of these sets at a vintage toy store or at a garage sale or an estate sale, and it's missing a few logs, or the trap is missing completely, or maybe the elevator is a little bit frayed, your heart still does a little flip. Because it's not just plastic, it's a memory of lazy afternoons, of battles waged on shag carpeting, of stories told without screens or batteries. So today, let's remember the Ewok Village playset, that wonderful, wobbly chunk of plastic that allowed a whole generation of kids to not just build forts and traps, but to build entire galaxies in their heads. May its rope elevator rise. May its net trap finally work on the very first try. And may we remember that sometimes the simplest toys create the most epic adventures. All right, guys, welcome to the kitchen where Mrs. Cassette Phase and I are going to sit down and work on this indoor Ewok Village playset. You can kind of see some of the stuff that I've purchased laid out here and what we're going to be using as kind of this little arts and crafts project. And we're going to just roll the camera and see what we can come up with today as we go through this. So we'll see how it turns out. All right, the first step that we're going to do is we're going to spread this. We've got this mossy mat peel and stick, which is going to make like our forest floor. So I'm going to lift the playset out for just a few minutes while we put that down, and then we will come back and update you once we've got that laid flat. All right, let's get started. This is going to make a mess, so we'll vacuum afterwards. We're probably going to cut it because I did the measurements in my head, and I think we have enough. But yeah, we're going to do some Tetris work here. You guys know I can't do any activity without a cup of coffee. It's got like graph paper on the back too if we need it for.
And then we can lay stuff on this part to cover that'll be perfect.
Okay.
Then we need to smooth up here. We just have to make sure we have a good enough, oh yeah, and then we'll put a square there.
Yeah, or we can leave, we also have the big plant we're gonna put in, so we can use that to our advantage too.
I would cover it just in case you remove the place.
Yeah, good call.
Plus this, I don't want to overlap this.
Oh yeah,
I don't think it'll stick.
It won't lay flat.
And it won't stick. So.
Yep, can't have any overlap. You know, when we were looking into what to do for this project, we were looking up stuff online for guys that do train sets, and got a lot of good information from people that do big elaborate train displays, which is also really cool. Oh, that's gonna be perfect. Now, before we do any peeling and sticking, we're gonna have to get all the little grass out of there. Or I guess it won't stay. So maybe I should either dump it or I could go get the vacuum hose.
Yeah, let's bring the vacuum hose out because then that way I can vacuum really quick, peel, and then if any falls, you can suck it up really quick.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
We'll be right back and show you that next step. All right, we've got a couple little snafus with the sticky back sides of these moss mats, but we're making it work. Almost done, one more piece. Okay, it's not perfect, but it looks good. We've got a good little base of moss. Here's our indoor forest floor. We're gonna do some covering up of some of these seams with some of the extra loose moss that we have and see how that kind of smooths it out, and we will check back in after we do that. And actually, before we do that, we put the playset back into place along with the palm plant, house plant at the back to give it some height. And we're gonna build around it like this because we didn't wanna do a whole bunch of stuff to the ground and then not be able to put the playset back in place. So I think we've got that squared away. We're gonna keep working. So this is already turning out to be a lot of fun. Look, we've got a couple little bridges with some stone paths going. You know, they might not lead anywhere in particular, but they're still cool. Fun little area for our Ewoks to hang out. Yeah, let's keep going. Just adding some foliage to the indoor forest here. All right, we continue to make some progress here. Putting trees in place, gluing some rocks down. Added a little flickering campfire up here on the top. All right, let's keep going. And around the back side here, we've got a little path or a seating area, whatever you want to do with it, going around that side tree there. I think that looks cool. Nice, yeah, looks good.
Okay, where's the other one going?
Probably here.
Right there.
That way it's on the top of all three. I'm losing a little bit of lookout functionality, but I think it's gonna be cool with the lights, especially if I turn these off, you know, have the room dark and have these going. I think that's gonna look cool. Yeah, and guys, we're not gluing anything to the playset itself, so don't worry about that. This can easily be lifted out and look original, like it's meant to. But I am gluing down a lot of the plants and the rocks and things like that because I'm gonna have to, in order to get this back into its rightful place in the den, I'm gonna have to lift this thing up over my head to get through the doorway and past the filing cabinet. So that's why we're being a little bit more careful in gluing a lot of this stuff down, but yeah. And what we're doing is we're just wrapping these little flickering LED votive candles with some of the extra moss that we have left over. And we can still get to the on-off switch on the bottom and the compartment to replace the battery, because I know I'll have to replace the battery on these probably every year. They're just little coin batteries, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so we'll give some light to the indoor village. So now what we're trying to do is add some vine action and get some vines hanging down from some various places around. And again, not gluing anything to the playset, but just kind of looping and wrapping and tying where we can. Okay, so here's a look at the front side, almost done. We'll probably do a few more little finishing touches as we go along, but I wanted to show you that before we rotate the board and start working on the next side, the side over here with the elevator. But I think it's looking really cool so far. Continuing our work on the back side here. And we've got a pretty empty space right here, but that's where the plant is gonna go, that's gonna tower over everything. So we have to leave a space for that, but we're gonna get this tree situation going and then we're gonna hang some more vines. So I'll show you what that looks like when we get to it. All right, moving right along here. We've got more trees, we've got more vines. We've got some logs placed that will be perfect little lookout stands for Ewoks. Watching out for you know, whoever might be invading. Coming along, we're getting close to the finished product here. We've just got a few more little finishing touches. And then I'll give you the ending shot of everything. And then once I get it moved back to the den and in its place, I will add some figures and set up the diorama and show that to you. So we've got the tall plant in place, which I'll show you more in just a second, but this rock right here If you guys watched my most recent road trip video where we went hiking in Arkansas, I actually took this off a trail. It's got real Arkansas moss growing on it, so we're gonna work that into the diorama here. I think that's a kind of a cool touch. Yeah, straight out of the hike that we went on to the Planet of Endor. All right, guys, there you have it. Now, finished product, except I still have to add the figures, of course. So my next step is going to be getting this back into my office, back there in the den, properly placed on the end table, and then we're gonna add some Ewoks and get ourselves a fun little diorama. So big shout out to my wife, Mrs. Cassette Phase. I could not have done this. I'm not crafty at all, so this was all her doing. I just kind of, filmed and gave my input when it was asked for. So really fun project. Let's get it squared away back in the den. All right, guys, it is in its place. Let's take a look. Now I'm gonna give you, I've got the room lit up pretty bright right now so you can see this in detail. I'm gonna take you on a little tour, and then I'm gonna show you what it looks like in here when it's dark, when the lights are off, because that's also really cool. Because as you can see, we did put the little votive flickering candles on top of the 3 trunks, as well as in the fire pit. I think that adds a nice touch. And as you saw all throughout the rest of the video, this is like a little wonderland now for the Ewoks to play in. And this is exactly what I was hoping for when we set out to do this project. There were already all kinds of little nooks and crannies to explore within this playset, but I feel like now there are even more. I don't have a lot of toys out on display here in the den anymore, but I feel like this one, it fits in, and I think it just looks cool. Will I keep it there forever? I don't know. We'll have to see, but right now, I absolutely love it. So let's put some figures in, and then see what that looks like. Okay, so while I was doing this, I came to the realization that I don't have that many figures from Return of the Jedi, which is kind of a shame because that's my favorite Star Wars movie, as I mentioned. But we've got a few. And what's great about something like this is there's always room to add more, right? Any great action figure diorama has room for you to improve it and switch it up and add things as you go along. So we're really just kind of scratching the surface here, you know? But a lot of fun regardless. 3PO back there telling some kind of story around the fire. Leia probably rolling her eyes listening to him. All right, so I don't know how good video quality that I can get when I turn the lights out, but let's put it a little bit dark in here and see what this looks like glowing. See if I can get that to come across on camera for you guys. Be right back. Now I know that's gonna be grainy, but hopefully you can at least get the idea. You know, if I'm sitting here in the den, sitting on the couch, you know, watching a movie over on the console TV, the ambiance can be enhanced by the soft glow of the Ewok Village. Very cool. And just for fun, let's see what kind of grainy video we can get here with all of the lights out. So the only lights on in the den right now are coming from the Ewok Village. I don't know, kind of fun, and I can add more light over time. Maybe figure out a way to string some lanterns or something. There it is. All right, and as we wrap up for the day, I promised you guys some nostalgic relaxation, which you know we love to do around here at the Cassette Phase. So I'm gonna stop yapping and give that to you right here. Hope you enjoy. And there we are. So I hope you all enjoyed our little nostalgic trip back to the galaxy far, far away. And I also hope you enjoyed hanging out in the indoor Ewok Village for a little while. And if you did, and if you're new, consider subscribing. Also, don't forget to like the video, but only if you actually liked the video. But for now, and as always, relax. Enjoy life and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.